Howdy folks, you're watching Deuce. Today is going to be a top 5 cheap guns for cheap bastards like me. And we're going to focus today on guns that may or may not become hard to get after the 2024 election. So let's get to it after I clean up my workspace. While I will be talking about 5 different guns, I'll actually be talking about 5 different categories. The first category is pistol. What I'm going to look for is something that actually has a capacity that is above what a lot of people want to ban, but it's also cheap, like this Taurus G Series. The Taurus G Series are very good for the money. They're very good anyway. Is a trigger great? Not really. Are the sights great? They're pretty much basic. They're mid, but it works. They hold 12 plus rounds depending on what you got. I've really enjoyed this G2C, and I have a video up here somewhere. I will link all the different reviews I've got on these firearms, but here we go. The G Series, any of the G Series from Taurus. If you're willing to spend a bit more, look for a Glock 22. These are being turned in nationwide by the police forces across the nation that are changing back from 40 caliber, which this is in, to a 9mm, because they pretty much copy what the FBI does, and the FBI went to 147 grain 9mm bullet, and they also ditched their Glock 22s. The downside is the Glock 22 shoots 40 caliber, and 40 caliber is more expensive to shoot. So you're not going to be shooting as cheap ammo as you would be the cheaper Taurus. But you can get a conversion barrel for this where you can shoot 9mm just fine and dandy. The next firearm category we're going to talk about today is the AR-15. This is a fantastic platform that is so versatile that it is so worth it to have one of these in your arsenal. And the reason why it makes this list is because the AR-15 is always on any kind of possible future ban hammer that could be falling at any moment. And for cheap bastards, I would recommend one of the 3 companies of AR-15s. Anderson Manufacturing. This is an Anderson Manufacturing. I would recommend Palmetto State Armory, and I would recommend the Smith & Wesson Sport 2 as far as your first and cheaper options that are still good in the AR-15 platform. Can you get way more expensive and better AR-15s? Of course you can, but that's not what this video is about. In order to spend a bit less in the long run, I recommend spending a bit more up front and getting something like this, a dissipator. This is Anderson Manufacturing dissipator. It comes with the carry handle. It's got the front iron sights that are permanently attached, and it has no place to put any kind of hoo-haws or doodads or any extra stuff on here. So in the long run, you will save a lot of money by spending a bit more on just a complete rifle setup. Next up is the 22 rifle. So we're going to look at 22 rifles that could fall under any kind of future ban hammer for cheap bastards. If we were not considering the election results as part of the decision-making process here, for a 22 bolt action, I would recommend the Savage Mark II. And for the cheap semi-automatic, I would recommend the Mossberg 702 Plinkster or the Rossi RS22 semi-automatic rifles. They're the same rifle, slightly different stock, made in the exact same assembly line. Neither of those options will ever be on the chopping block because they have a very, very limited round capacity and very little aftermarket support. What I would recommend is a Ruger 1022 because it does have all those crazy magazine capacities available to you from the aftermarket. But those things have gotten expensive. Have you checked the price of a 1022 lately? They've doubled in price since I bought mine maybe 15 years ago. So I would recommend instead something that takes 1022 magazines, the Winchester Wildcat. This thing is a super fun rifle. Is it super accurate? It's all right. An old timer once told me, a cheap 22 rifle can shoot really well with expensive ammo. An expensive 22 rifle can shoot really well with cheap ammo. So keep that in mind. The fourth category is deer rifles or hunting rifles. Now, any of the big makes of deer rifles and hunting rifles have a budget option, and they're all pretty good for their money. Now, this one is a Thompson Center compass rifle, which has not been made for quite some time, although the Thompson Center company is apparently coming back. I think they're going to focus on muzzle loaders and single shot rifles, but we'll see if they ever come back with the compass, which I love this rifle. In lieu of this rifle, I would recommend the Ruger American or the Savage Access 2. Any of those will be fine, but I would not recommend any of those for an election style purchase because nobody is trying to take away a deer rifle. So I would recommend An upper. If you need a hunting rifle, go ahead and get yourself an AR-15 and then buy yourself an upper that has the appropriate cartridge on it that you need for whatever you're hunting. The first AR you get should be chambered in 5.56, and then you can get an adapter so it shoots 22. So there you have a 2-in-1. If you want to go close range hog hunting, then you grab yourself an upper chambered in 7.60x39 or 300 blackout. One of those guys right there, I think that's 300 blackout, and you can just plop that onto the lower right there and you're rocking and rolling. Years ago, the 7.62 uppers were not very good, and it turns out it was the magazine. So as long as you get the appropriate C Products magazine for these, they run like a top. At this point in time, you should be yelling at your screen saying, "Deuce, none of those cartridges are suitable for deer." You, sir, are correct. You are a gentleman and a scholar, but luckily, they make an upper that fits on a standard lower that is chambered in 350 Legend. Now, it's no secret that I'm not a huge fan of the 350 Legend. The reason why I'm not a fan is not because of the cartridge itself, but what it represents, which is a workaround to get around these stupid straight wall cartridge laws in some states. But you gotta do what you gotta do. And if this isn't enough for whatever your purposes are, they got 50 Beowulf that also fits on a standard AR lower. They also have 450 Bushmaster, which apparently I'm out of that ammo, or I'll be showing that off as well. For those of you who are not in a straight wall cartridge state, I highly recommend the 458 SOCOM to take down those deer. I've never tried it myself, but it should be more than adequate. And the fifth category before we hit our wild card is the 12 gauge shotgun. So got 12 gauge. As far as cheap 12 gauge shotguns, I would recommend a pump action shotgun from Mossberg, actually the Mossberg Maverick. This is just a normal 500, but the Mossberg Maverick, it's made in Texas. I'm pretty sure it's still made in Texas. Probably the cheapest shotgun made in the United States. But nobody's trying to ban a pump action shotgun. If you've always wanted to tinker around with one of those AR pattern shotguns, or in this case, the SDS AK pattern shotgun, which I would recommend the SDS over most other import semi-automatic shotgun manufacturers or importers. They don't make them, they just import them. Remember, I do say tinker because none of these are great. Even the better ones are not fantastic. Now for the wild card. The category of the wild card is going to be pistol caliber carbines. And out of all the pistol caliber carbines that has hit the market, I'm still going to recommend the Hi-Point carbine. It is by far the least expensive. They're heavy duty. The reason why this could fall under some sort of ban hammer in the future is that there are some aftermarket magazines that do increase its capacity. And of course, if you want to spend some more dough, you can get a higher capacity option from Smith & Wesson or Kel-Tec. That is my list on all the firearms I would recommend to buy if you don't already have them before the 2024 election, just in case they become very, very hard to get in the near future. If you have any comments, questions, show what it is, or any ideas of what you might be purchasing before the election, let me know down in the comments down below. I try to answer as many of those as possible and talk to you guys, especially during the first couple of hours after my video goes live. Oh, by the way, I'm recording this video on Wednesday, the very first day of early voting, and here's my proof of voting earlier today. And tomorrow, I'm taking a day off of work and I'm chauffeuring a lot of people who cannot make it to the polls themselves. They're elderly, they're disabled, and I'm getting them to and from the polls to make sure that they can vote and their voices are heard. And I suggest you guys to do the same. As always, you guys have a great day. See ya.